Okay, we're going to take a look at how you turn a decimal into a fraction. That is, how do you go from something that looks like this to something that looks like that? So, that to that. How do you do it? Well, that's the topic of how we're going to get there. What are the steps that you need to know? And we'll take a look at a few worked examples by taking a look at this. Here we have 0.5, which perhaps you already know is the same thing as 1/2. And here we have 0.125, which perhaps you already know is the same thing as 1/4. And 0.75 is the same thing as 3/4. But what's the step? How do you go from this, what's missing, to get you to this? Well, we'll take a look at that. 5/10 will simplify to 1/2. 25 100ths will simplify to 1/4. And 75 100ths will simplify to 3/4. But how do you do that? Well, we'll take a look at this. Here we have 0.5. You might notice that the number that we have here, 5, is the same as the number that we have here. You also might notice that the number of numbers that we have on the right side of the decimal is exactly equal to the number of zeros that we have here. So we have one number and we have one zero. That gives us 5/10, an equivalent fraction of 1/2. Let's take a look at 0.25. Here we have 25 in the numerator, and we have 25 here. And we have two numbers to the right of the decimal. That tells us we have two zeros that come after the 1. And so here we have 25 100ths. 25 100ths simplifies to 1/4. And here we have 0.75. We have 75 in the numerator. We have two numbers here, and that gives us two zeros here. 75 100ths simplifies to 3/4. All right, take a look at another example. What would the numerator be? It'd be 125. How many zeros would there be in the denominator? There are 3 zeros, and that would make it 125 over 1,000. That simplifies to 1/8. Just how you simplify is beyond the scope of what I wanted to cover here. We'll do that in another video. Here we have 0.375. The numerator will be 375. The total number of zeros will be 3, so that means we are at 375 thousandths. That simplifies to 3/8. Here we have 0.875. The numerator is, of course, 875. There are 3 zeros in the denominator, and that makes it 1,000. That simplifies to 7/8. Here we have 0.34. The numerator is 34, and there are 2 zeros in the denominator. That simplifies to 17 over 50. Here we have 0.4. 4 is the numerator, and 10 is the denominator. And that would simplify to 2/5. And here we have 0.7. 7 is my numerator, and 10 is my denominator. Doesn't simplify any further than that, so the answer is 7/10. Here we have 0.35. The numerator is 35, and 100 is the denominator. That simplifies to 7 over 20. Here we have a large number with a lot of places to the right of the decimal. And how do you turn that into a fraction? Well, you simply take this number right here, and that is your numerator. So we'll turn that number into our numerator. And then we count the number of places to the right of the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We add a 1, and then we put 13 zeros behind it. Now, to simplify this puppy would be pretty difficult, or would be kind of challenging, so we're going to avoid that here. But I can't make a number with a decimal that is so large that you can't turn it into a fraction. Okay, now let's take a look at another example of what do you do when you have a number to the left of the decimal, as in 1.5. Well, it's still our numerator, in this case would be 15, but how many places do we have after the decimal? Just one, so you can see that our denominator will be 10. So we have 15 tenths. That's an improper fraction. So if we turn that into 3 halves, and 3 halves is the same thing as 1 and 1/2. So 1.5 does equal 1 1/2. All right, now let's take a look at 3.25. Well, our numerator is 325, and our denominator is 100. That becomes 13/4, and 13/4 is the same thing as 3 1/4. So 3.25 does equal 3 1/4. Another example, we have 2.75. Our numerator is 275, and our denominator has 2 zeros, and that's 100. That is the same thing as 11/4, and 11/4 is 2 3/4. 2 3/4 is equal to 2.75. Now we'll take a look at a couple of practice exercises. What you can do here is just click on the stop sign. You'll then be able to solve the problem, and then click on the green sign here, and that'll get the video going for you again. So try to solve this one. The correct answer is 6 tenths, and 6 tenths simplifies to 3/5. Press on the stop sign and try to solve it. The correct answer is 8 tenths, and 8 tenths simplifies to 4/5. Press on the stop sign. 17 tenths becomes 1 7/10. 3.2 is 32 tenths, and that's 3 1/5. 3.2 and 3 1/5 are the same thing. 38 hundredths, and that simplifies to 19/50. 12.5. 125 is the numerator, and 10 is the denominator. That simplifies to 25/2, and that's the same thing as 12 1/2. 12.5 does equal 12 1/2. Your comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome, appreciated, and always encouraged. You may write to me at alanmorris@yahoo.com.